My uncle drained my grandfather's account, thinking no one would find out. So I invited the whole family to a dinner in honor of Grandpa's legacy and handed out the bank statements with dessert. He always wore the same battered John Deere cap, faded green, frayed at the bill, sweat-stained like every summer he'd ever worked. The fields lived in that damn thing. I buried my grandfather in that hat. Or tried to. It disappeared between the funeral home and the service. My Uncle Ron said it must have been lost in transit. But I knew. That hat meant everything to Grandpa. You don't misplace the one thing he asked to be buried with. You don't forget that, unless you never cared. I'm still not sure when the disgust turned into rage. Maybe it was when I caught Ron casually wearing Grandpa's watch at the wake, said it was a family keepsake, or when he made a gross joke about how, "We'll all be fine now that the old man's not draining the will." Everyone laughed, even Aunt Shelley, like that was normal, like grief should be a punchline. My name's Nate. I'm 34. I work maintenance at a community college in Indiana. I'm not flashy. I didn't go to some big school, but I was the one who visited Grandpa every Sunday, brought him pie, listened to the same stories again and again. I knew how he took his coffee and that he hated being cold. I knew that he wore that hat because Grandma gave it to him the year she died. And I knew something was off with his accounts. After the funeral, I got a call from Grandpa's bank. I was listed as his secondary contact, a little thing we set up after his last fall. They flagged suspicious withdrawals, thousands over the past 18 months, transfers to a separate account I didn't recognize. When I asked for a name, they hesitated. Said they'd need paperwork, proof of relation. Took me a week of back and forth, driving back and forth from the bank to the lawyer's office and digging through Grandpa's files. The account belonged to Ronald J. Haskins, my uncle, who had just inherited the house, the car, the coin collection Grandpa kept locked away in the attic. My uncle, who claimed Grandpa was losing it and needed help managing his finances, who'd cried crocodile tears at the service and then laughed about how Grandpa would have wanted us to get on with things. I wanted to scream, but screaming into the void won't bring someone back. So I got quiet instead, focused, and I made a plan. I told Ron I was organizing a legacy dinner, said it would be good for the family, that Grandpa deserved a real send-off, that I wanted to honor his life with all of us gathered, like he always wanted on those Thanksgivings when half the family didn't even show. Ron lit up, told me it was a great idea, that Grandpa would be proud. I told him I'd host, that I'd take care of everything. That was the easy part. What came next wasn't. Because to expose what Ron did, I needed to find everything, not just bank statements. I needed a trail, paperwork, withdrawals, signatures, and I needed to do it without tipping him off. Turns out Grandpa kept better records than Ron thought. Buried in a shoebox under the floorboards of his closet were printouts, copies of statements, notes in his shaky handwriting, $5,000 to Ron, said for roof repair. Ron asked for cash again, said it was urgent. The last one was scrawled just 3 days before he died. Asked Ron for bank login. He said not to worry. That was when I knew. Grandpa didn't give him that money. Ron took it, convinced him it was for something else, maybe even made him think he was going crazy, gaslit him until he stopped asking questions. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I printed every statement, and I sent the invitations. I made the menu myself, not the food. That was catered from a decent local spot. But the printed menu cards, each one was personally designed. Elegant cream cardstock, gold embossed lettering, a dinner in honor of Harold Haskins' legacy. Underneath, a curated selection of Grandpa's favorite dishes, roast beef with horseradish, scalloped potatoes, cherry pie for dessert, because he swore it helped his digestion. But hidden behind each menu card was what mattered, a sealed envelope. Each envelope had the guest's name on it, and inside, photocopies of Ron's bank withdrawals, labeled, highlighted, annotated, with a personal note from me. Just one line. Ask Ron where Grandpa's money went. That dinner was a Saturday night. I can still smell the church hall, lemon-scented wood polish, and potluck ghosts. The family shuffled in slowly, unsure what the event really was. My cousin Derek, Ron's son, asked if it was a fundraiser. Aunt Denise thought it was some kind of memorial/Easter crossover. My mom gave me a hug and told me I looked tense. Yeah, no shit, Mom. Ron showed up late, of course, wearing Grandpa's watch again and this awful blue blazer he only pulls out when he wants to look important. He gave me a big, fake-ass smile. Hope you didn't go overboard, Nate. This is lovely. I wanted to punch him in the throat. I said nothing, just nodded. Glad you're here. Dinner was tense. We opened with a toast. I stood up, glass of cheap red wine in hand, and kept my voice steady. To Grandpa, I said. To the man who taught me how to fix a fence, how to make a mean cornbread, and how to never trust a man who talks too fast and signs too slow. Ron actually chuckled. No idea I'd just thrown a dart. We ate. Conversations flickered. Shallow, careful, performative. Half these people hadn't visited Grandpa in years, but they came for the legacy. And then it was time for dessert. Cherry pie, as promised. I stood again, this time without my wine. My hands were shaking a little. I tried to play it off like nerves. Before we all dig in, I said, I just want to give everyone something special. Something Grandpa left behind. You'll find it behind your menu. Chairs scraped, paper rustled, and then silence. Except for the sound of one fork clinking against porcelain as Aunt Marlene kept eating pie like her life depended on it. My cousin Tina was the first to speak. What is this? She held up the statement. $3,500 withdrawn in cash. March 2022. Labeled Wheelchair Fund in Grandpa's handwriting. Ron's face drained color, like watching a toilet flush in reverse. Derek blinked at his copy. Dad, what the hell is this? I didn't say a word. I just turned, walked over to the dessert table and served myself a slice of pie. Waited for the room to catch up to the bomb I'd dropped. Ron stood, knocked his chair over. This is bullshit, he snapped. Language, someone muttered automatically. Those are fake, he barked, waving his envelope. You're trying to poison this family against me. No, Ron, I said calmly, setting down my fork. You did that all on your own. And then it happened. Ron lunged for the table, grabbed the pile of extra envelopes and ripped them apart like a toddler having a meltdown. Papers fluttered like dead snow. But he didn't make it halfway through before Derek shoved him back. Did you steal from Grandpa? He said. His voice cracked. Ron's eyes darted around, suddenly feral. You ungrateful little sh... I stepped forward, quiet but firm. You drained over $46,000, Ron. I've got it all documented, including the calls Grandpa made to the bank, asking why his card didn't work. You want to deny it? Deny it to them. He didn't. He just turned, stormed out the side door, left dessert half-eaten and every lie wide open. And the best part? That was just the beginning. After Ron stormed out, nobody touched the damn pie. Tina was crying, like full-on shoulders-shaking sobs over a stack of documents. My mom looked stunned, just staring at her envelope like it was radioactive. Derek sat back down but couldn't stop whispering, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" over and over like a broken record. And me? I just stood there, weirdly calm, like my insides had finally stopped vibrating after weeks of carrying this secret. I wasn't proud. I wasn't triumphant. I was just done. I said one more thing before I left. If any of you want to pretend you didn't know, now's your chance. But if you're still pretending he's the victim, don't ever call me again. Then I walked out. I didn't clean up. Didn't wait for anyone to thank me. I got in my truck, hands still sticky with sweat, and drove home in silence. Didn't even turn on the radio. And that night, my phone exploded. It started with texts from Aunt Denise. Why would you humiliate him like that? Couldn't you have just told him privately? We're family. That last one made me laugh out loud. Like family meant anything when money was on the table. Then Derek called. I didn't answer at first. He left a voicemail. Nate, I had no idea. I swear to God I didn't know. I thought Dad was helping Grandpa. He said he was paying for stuff. The roof, the hospital bills, everything. I'm sorry. Call me back, please. I waited 2 days. Then I called him. We talked for over an hour. Turns out Ron had been feeding his own kid lies. Claimed Grandpa didn't know how to manage his money anymore. Told him he'd taken over the finances for Grandpa's own good. Said he was consolidating the accounts so they could protect the estate. All that legal-sounding BS. Derek had bought it because, well, why wouldn't he? Ron had always been the responsible one, the older brother, the family's success story, the guy who worked in insurance and owned a boat and always gave Christmas presents with receipts taped neatly inside. I think Derek genuinely believed his dad was some kind of saint, until the statement said otherwise. But here's where it really started to unravel. 2 days after the dinner, I get a call from a blocked number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to pick up. Nate, Ron's voice. Quiet, tight, like someone was sitting on his chest. You need to stop this. I didn't say anything. Just let the silence breathe. You're tearing this family apart, he said. Over what? A few $1,000s? That did it. A few thousand? I snapped. You stole $46,218.34. I counted. I documented. And that doesn't include the cash you took that didn't leave a trail. He started to talk, but I kept going. You made Grandpa feel like he was going senile. You gaslit him until he stopped asking where his money was going. You buried him without the one thing he wanted, and then wore his watch like a fucking trophy. More silence. Then Ron did what Ron always does when he's cornered. He went nuclear. If you don't shut this down, he hissed, I'll make sure you're out of the will. You'll never see a dime. You think you're so righteous? You're just bitter you weren't the favorite. I laughed. Honest to God laughed. Because that was the moment I knew he was terrified. Ron, I said, there is no will. Not anymore. And then I hung up. Because what he didn't know yet, the lawyer had already called me. Grandpa had changed his will 6 months before he died. Quietly, without telling Ron. And the changes? Oh, buddy. That's where the revenge really starts. Grandpa had left everything to me. Not the house. that had already been sold to Ron in some shady handshake deal back in 2022. But the rest? Every remaining asset. His tools, his stocks, the joint safety deposit box I never even knew about. Grandpa had gone to the courthouse himself with the lawyer and added my name as sole beneficiary for everything not already deeded or titled, including a letter, typed, dated, signed in the kind of wobbly script that made my chest ache. It was short, but it punched harder than any shout Ron had ever thrown at me. To Nate, you showed up. You listened. You remembered the little things. I wish I'd had the strength to call out Ron sooner. I'm sorry I let him take so much, but I know you'll do what's right. And I know you'll keep your word about the hat. The envelope the lawyer handed me with the will? It had the hat inside, folded, flattened a little, but still his. I cried in the damn parking lot, not the soft movie-style crying. I mean ugly, heaving sobs that made two strangers walking past me stop and ask if I needed help. I waved them off. Just sat in my truck and held that hat like it was made of glass. The next day, I went back to the cemetery and buried it myself. Right there, next to the headstone. Dug into the earth with my own hands and tucked it under the grass like I was tucking him in one last time. That should have been the end. But of course, Ron wasn't done. 3 days after the dinner, he tried to break into Grandpa's storage shed. The neighbor across the street saw him and called the cops. Said he was retrieving personal items. Tried to sweet-talk the responding officer by name-dropping his job and offering to resolve this civilly. They let him go with a warning, so I changed the locks. A week later, Derek forwarded me a Facebook message Ron had sent him. Some half-baked sob story about how I was manipulating the family and stealing from his father's legacy. He even claimed I'd forged the bank records. Said I was jealous of his relationship with Grandpa, which is hilarious. Ron hadn't visited Grandpa in 7 months before he died. He didn't even show up for the hospital stay. But sure, tell me more about how I'm the outsider. Then came the real blowback. I got a letter from Ron's lawyer. A formal cease and desist. He was accusing me of slander, of defamation with malicious intent, of publicly embarrassing a respected family member in a setting meant to honor the deceased. I wanted to frame it. Honest to God, I laughed so hard I almost choked on my coffee. But the thing is, this wasn't just about me anymore. Ron wasn't just being petty. He was trying to silence me, to scare me into silence. So I called Grandpa's lawyer. Turns out, the estate still held power of attorney retroactively assigned for medical and legal matters in Grandpa's final year. That meant every transaction Ron made while claiming to act on his behalf was subject to audit. We filed a claim, and this time, it wouldn't be family court. This would be criminal. Update 1. Okay, deep breath. First off, thank you. Seriously. I did not expect Reddit to show up like this. The messages, the DMs, the absolutely savage roasts of Ron. Someone called him a walking foreclosure in dad jeans. I'm still laughing. Y'all made me feel like I wasn't crazy. Like it wasn't just me screaming into the void. A few of you asked if I regret doing it during dessert. Nope. Grandpa always said, sweet truths go down smoother. And honestly, cherry pie never tasted better. Some updates, Ron is spiraling. He's been calling everyone. My mom, my cousin Tina, even Aunt Denise, trying to guilt trip, manipulate, spin it all into a smear campaign. He posted a Facebook rant that was chef's kiss unhinged. Claimed I fabricated documents and brainwashed the next generation. Someone replied, you mean you stole from a dying man? And he deleted the whole post in 10 minutes. The bank? They're cooperating. I filed a formal inquiry with the help of Grandpa's estate lawyer. They're reviewing the withdrawals and maybe flagging them for financial abuse of a senior. Apparently that is a thing and it's serious. The rest of the family is split. Some are staying quiet, probably too embarrassed to admit they looked the other way. Others are finally speaking up. Derek found more. Old text messages, even a photo of Ron with a wad of cash labeled loan from dad on his phone from 2021. But here's the wildest part. Grandpa recorded a video. I didn't know. Derek didn't know. But Grandpa made a video on his old iPad. Just him talking for about 5 minutes. He names names. Says Ron started withdrawing cash without his permission. Says he's scared to say no. Says he doesn't want to cause drama, but he knows what's happening is wrong. I watched it 3 times. I cried all 3. I'm showing it to the lawyer tomorrow. Ron has no idea it exists, but he's about to find out. I played the video for the lawyer first. She didn't say anything for the first 2 minutes. Just watched. Elbows on her desk, pen tapping slowly against her legal pad. When Grandpa's voice cracked, when he said, I feel like a burden, like maybe I should just stop asking questions, her tapping stopped cold. When it ended, she leaned back and said, that's not just heartbreaking, that's admissible. Then she got to work. See, Ron thought he was slick, but what he didn't understand was the power of intent. Bank statements and receipts, that's one thing, but a video, A scared, visibly frail old man saying on record that he didn't understand where his money was going, that he didn't agree to the withdrawals. That's financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. A felony. By Friday, we'd filed a formal complaint with the state's Elder Abuse Division. Ron was going to be investigated. They'd pull every statement, every transaction, every dime. And if they found what we already knew, he wasn't just losing family, he was facing charges. But that's not the revenge. The real revenge? That came Sunday. We had a follow-up family dinner scheduled weeks earlier, meant to be a healing brunch my mom pushed for after the legacy dinner blew everything up. I hadn't planned to go, but Derek called me the night before. "Come," he said. "He'll be there. He thinks everyone's cooled off. He thinks he can explain it all away." So I went. This time, I didn't print anything. I didn't bring envelopes or drop hints. I just walked in, sat down, and waited. Ron came in late again. Classic. Wearing a smug smile and acting like nothing had happened. He made this loud, jokey comment as he sat. "Hope the pie's less explosive this time, huh?" No one laughed, but he didn't notice, or didn't care. He launched right into his usual charm act, telling Aunt Denise how he was working with professionals to get everything cleared up, hinting that I'd misunderstood, that things were being twisted. That's when I stood up. "I have something to show you," I said. I pulled out my phone, opened the video, turned the screen to face the table, maxed the volume, and hit play. You could have heard a pin drop. Grandpa's voice filled the room. "I'm scared. I don't want to fight with him, but I don't know where my money's going." I asked for my login and he told me not to worry about it. Said I was getting confused, but I'm not. I remember giving him the card for emergencies. I never told him to take this much. Halfway through, Ron tried to speak. Derek shut him down. "Don't," he said, voice shaking with fury. "Just don't." When it ended, I looked right at Ron. "I gave you dessert last time. Now I'm giving you a deadline. You have 48 hours to return every cent. If you don't, this video goes to the police, the bank, and every news outlet I can find." Ron's mouth opened. And then he lost it, flipped his chair backward, knocked over a glass pitcher of lemonade, started screaming about betrayal, how I'd edited the video, how Grandpa was losing his mind, and I was exploiting him. His face was red, spit flying, totally unhinged. Then he grabbed the phone out of my hand and slammed it into the wall, shattered it, and still no one said a word. I stood, walked to the kitchen, grabbed a USB drive from my coat pocket, held it up. "There's 5 copies. Yours just paid for the next one." And I left. Because that's the thing about Ron. He's so used to taking, he never realized some things can't be stolen. Some things you have to earn, and he never did. Ron didn't return the money. Of course he didn't. Instead, he doubled down, like a cornered raccoon foaming at the mouth, biting at shadows. 2 days after the brunch, I got served. That's right, he tried to sue me. Defamation, emotional distress, property damage, for the phone he smashed. His complaint read like a bad Lifetime script, full of claims that I was orchestrating a character assassination and manipulating public perception through edited media. Derek texted me a screenshot of Ron's GoFundMe. "Help me fight false allegations and family betrayal." He asked for $50,000. He got $312, and most of it was from his weird bowling league friends who still think the earth is flat and Grandpa faked the moon landing. I wanted to laugh, but honestly, I was tired. Tired of court filings, tired of angry voicemails, tired of watching my family unravel like a cheap sweater. But I wasn't done, because Grandpa hadn't just left me files and money. He left me his journals, buried in a taped-up box in the attic, wrapped in an old U.S. Army towel, 8 notebooks, spiral-bound, dusty, barely legible in places. The last 2 years of his life were written down, day by day. And in those pages, Grandpa told the whole story. How Ron would stop by once a week, say, "Just checking in," and then ask for cash. How he'd guilt-trip Grandpa about how tight things are right now. How he needed help, just until the bonus comes in. Sometimes he'd cry. Sometimes he'd yell. Once he told Grandpa, "If you don't help me, I might lose the house." He didn't lose the house. He bought a boat. It was in there, too. An entry from July. Ron came again, said it was for his car, but I saw the receipt for a new Sea Ray in his back seat. When I asked, he said, "Don't worry about it, Pops. I do worry. I just don't say anything. I'm tired." Those journals were heartbreaking, but they were also power, and I knew what to do. Update 2. I said I wasn't going to cry again, but yeah, this one hit different. The investigator called me this morning. They're pressing charges. Officially, Ron's been charged with exploitation of a vulnerable adult, theft over $25,000, and falsifying documents. It's real. It's happening. The man who strutted around in Grandpa's watch, who told the world I was just bitter, who smashed my phone against a wall like a toddler in timeout. He's facing real time. And you know the kicker? He cried in the parking lot when they cuffed him. My cousin Tina saw it. Said he sobbed like a kicked dog and kept asking, How could Nate do this to me? Nate didn't. You did. Also, guess who magically decided to remember the truth? Aunt Denise. Now that Ron's sunk, she's calling me and Derek like we're long-lost besties. I always thought something felt off. I just didn't know what to do. Ma'am, you clapped when he made that inheritance joke. Save it. As for the rest of the family, split down the middle. Some are circling wagons pretending it's a tragic misunderstanding. Others are finally telling their own stories. Little moments where Grandpa tried to say something and they brushed him off. Regret tastes sour. Me? I'm not celebrating, but I did take the boat out. Renamed it officially. Closure. Had the lettering done in gold paint. I scattered a little of Grandpa's ashes off the stern. Played Johnny Cash from a Bluetooth speaker. Just sat with the wind and the quiet and the water. He would have liked that. Justice isn't clean. It's messy and slow and full of people trying to rewrite history in real time. But it's justice. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. Thanks, Reddit, for listening, for backing me, for reminding me that sometimes the good guy does win. It took 3 months for the trial date. 3 months of whispers, of Ron's greasy lawyer trying to paint Grandpa as mentally compromised, and me as some manipulative grandson hell-bent on revenge. 3 months of seeing my mom avoid eye contact at the grocery store, like if she didn't see me, maybe none of it was real. 3 months of waiting, but I showed up every day. Suit pressed, hat in my hands, the old John Deere cap, rescued from the closet floor after Ron's arrest. I kept it in my lap, like Grandpa was right there with me, watching, smiling that lopsided smile he always gave when someone thought they were getting away with something. The courtroom was quiet when they played the video. You could hear a pin drop. Even the bailiff looked uncomfortable. That 5-minute clip, just Grandpa, scared and confused and still trying to protect Ron even as he said the words, "He's taking more than I agreed to. I don't want to cause trouble." He says I'm forgetting things, but I'm not. I remember. Ron wouldn't look at the screen. He just stared straight ahead, jaw tight, knuckles white. But the jury looked, and when they did, I watched their faces shift. Empathy, then disgust, then something colder, like they'd been lied to, and now they wanted blood. Derek testified next, read from Grandpa's journals, described how Ron coached the family into thinking Grandpa was slipping, talked about the time Ron made him swear not to tell anyone about the refinancing, which never happened, because Ron had just pulled another $9,000 in cash and blown it on business expenses. He choked up on the stand, said, "I used to think my dad was a good man. Now I know he's just a coward." Even the defense attorney winced. It wasn't a long trial. 4 days. On the 5th, the jury was out for 3 hours. Guilty. All counts. Ron didn't cry this time. He just sat there like someone unplugged him. He got 5 years. Eligible for parole in 2. And yeah, I showed up for sentencing too. Sat in the front row, cap in my hands, and met his eyes as the judge read the verdict. Didn't smile, didn't flinch, just wanted him to see me, to know he couldn't erase what he did, couldn't bury it under charm and family pressure and fake apologies. Ron went in red-faced and shaking. He'll come out broken. But this story wasn't just about punishment, because what came next, that was healing. It's been a year now. The grass on Grandpa's grave grows even and thick. The stones clean, polished. I go every month, trim back the edges, leave a slice of cherry pie wrapped in foil. Sometimes I talk to him. Sometimes I just sit there in silence. The boat, closure, still sits docked in the little marina on Lake Monroe. I take it out when the weather's good. Sometimes with Derek. Once, even with Tina, mostly alone. I keep Grandpa's hat in the glove box. Still smells like him. The house Ron tried to steal? Sold. The money he took? Recovered mostly. Through restitution ordered by the court. But I didn't keep it. I donated half to a veterans fund Grandpa used to support. The rest went into a scholarship fund in his name, the Harold Haskins Trade Grant, for kids who want to work with their hands. Just like he did. And me? I'm okay. It still hurts some days. Seeing how fast people can turn when money's involved. Watching a man you once called uncle transform into a thief in a church basement. But I learned something through all this. Justice isn't always loud. It's not always satisfying in the Hollywood way. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, ruthless in its slowness, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not scream, not beg, but show the truth and let it do the work. That dinner, that cherry pie, that silence after the envelopes opened, it echoed louder than any courtroom. So yeah, Ron's in prison, the family's fractured. But something else rose up from those ashes. Truth. And the kind of peace that comes when you stop pretending things are okay and finally say, no, not anymore. Some people inherit money. Others, we inherit fire. And we learn to burn clean.